All right, we have Congressman Paul Kanjorski, and I was thinking back to those dark days, Congressman, when remember the initial idea of a TARP when it meant PPIP, I think, back at that time. You remember that? And we thought that was the only thing that would save us, and we were scared. And you guys were meeting, and you came on and said, we're going to put something together here. We're going to get something accomplished. And we did, although it wasn't the PPIP. It was the TARP. It was just capitalizing the banks. And now a lot have paid some of that money back. Do we need the original PPIP anymore? It's getting small.
Yeah, and I think the essence there is we showed flexibility, John. That's important. Look, I said it earlier in the program. Nobody really knows what's going to cure a problem that we're in. We're trying different medicines, if you will. And if they don't work, we're going to discard them and try something new. And I think that's what I like about what the president and the administration have done. They've been willing to be more flexible. Not that if McCain had been president, he wouldn't have been, but he's not going to be president. He isn't. So we have to go with the president we have. Good, thank God he's flexible.
And he is flexible. You met with one of the guys that was there in the last administration and who's there now, and I think you can't minimize what Geithner's presence has meant either. I mean, there's been the continuity from when this all started, and he was working with Secretary Paulson. And now he is the secretary himself. I mean, are you impressed with his?
Joe, it goes back to something I said earlier. It's too bad when this whole thing came apart, September 15th, September 18th of this last year, that we didn't have the opportunity or take the time to go to the American people and fully explain it. That we failed to do. That was a failure of the Bush administration, but it's also been a failure now of the Obama administration. The American people are still, they don't quite understand why did this happen, what happened, who did what. The reality is, and I was there, I sat at the tables of discussion. There wasn't any disagreement among the finest economists, Nobel Prize winning economists on both sides of the political equation. Right. There was no difference that we had to act fast. It was a question of how large. And we could make mistakes and lose money, but it had to be done or we'd lose the whole system.
Right.
And in reality, you know, I've had Chairman Bernanke up several times, and I've asked him that very pointed question. And he always gives a great answer, but not enough American people are watching it. Those 3 days in September, we were on the edge of falling over the cliff and going 200 years behind in history.
I quote President Bush that the sucker's going down. We don't do something. And I think that, how many is that, like 5 words? This sucker is going to, yeah, that sums it up. What could have happened, right, with commercial paper?
We were so close to losing the whole system, not only in the United States, but around the world. But with that system, we would have lost the American democracy. I could go on and tell you the discussions about how do we provide law and order, how do we feed the population. They were all discussed those nights and days that we were working.
Yeah, we don't know that.
We made it through.
That is scary.
That's right. But we made it through. Now we're in the next hit. The question now is, are we going to have a second crash? Or are we going to prevent that second crash? And to a large extent, I believe a lot of that is psychological. I think we can talk ourselves into feeling things aren't going well, and that could stampede the market into dumping their stock and not making the investments necessary to propel the economy in the right direction. Or else we can say, hey, we're going to make it because we're willing to do anything we have to do to make it. And that's the position I'm taking. And I think that's what the president's saying. And then he's finally saying, as he said in that article this weekend, hey, let's not get scared after 10% of the bailout is out.
Yeah.
Let's give us
2
time
years.
here.